The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, welcome to it, is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download DraftKings Sportsbook's top-rated app and use promo code RTRS. And brought to you by Body Bio. Get 20% off of Elite or Calm or anything else at bodybio.com with promo code RTRS20. By Nature Pet Foods, slow cooked with super fusion, home of the Soft Shit Award. Get 20% off your first order at Chewy or Amazon with code 20RTRS. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And of course, our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On today's show, Bradley Beal apparently soon will decide if he maybe wants out, and the Sixers may or may not be on his list. That's the story. We'll talk about that. The 11 ways to fix the NBA from our own Mike O'Connor. And it's time. Maybe the most useless big boards we've done in the history of the podcast, but it is big board season, and we will get to that coming up in this podcast. A plug for we've been waiting for this. So we do the Carl Landry Record Club, which is Mootlu and I, where we talk about albums. But in the months of the pod, we've been talking about Mootlu's return to the road and being able to play live shows. And it was always interesting for me to get to hear what it's like to have an artist whose entire career is based around live shows not be able to do it for a year and a half and then return. And he has returned. So coming up in the new episode on Tuesday, we'll talk about albums from Steel Pulse and Husbands, but Mootlu's first show back, which I'm very happy for him. And the pod is fun to hear about his emotions and actually playing his first show. So that comes out on Tuesday. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
Laddie, sweetie, the man is here.
Say the name, I say the name, I say the name.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who will later be accused of, quote, toxic positivity in a biting mailbag question. That is Mike Levin.
I already don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
It's all very toxic.
Hello. Everything's toxic.
The draft. Yeah. The draft is here.
The draft is here. Do you want to do, I thought we would do NBA first, draft second. Is that sure. All right? So we'll start with here is the evolution of the Bradley Beal rumors, and maybe if the U.S. team keeps losing, maybe this will speed up. Maybe U.S. team losing, maybe it's a good thing. So Bradley Beal, Jake Fisher, our own Jake Fisher, reports that Bradley Beal...
Our own.
Yeah.
We claim everyone.
Well, whatever. I mean, he's been on the podcast. He was part of Liberty Ballers. He's from Philadelphia.
True.
That's our own.
True.
His name's Jake.
That's fair.
So Jake basically reports that Bradley Beal is going to decide in the next several days. He knows he needs to decide before the draft whether he's going to demand a trade. Mm-hmm. And if he would, and I want to be careful with the wording because he seemed like he was particularly careful on the wording, would welcome trades to teams like Boston, Golden State, Miami, Philadelphia. I think what he was trying to say, and I didn't ask Jake, is that contender-type teams that need a player like him. I don't know that looking at the way he wrote it, he meant those specific teams. That's what I took from it. Then newly crowned Sixers rumor Twitter guy, Quentin Mayo, who actually works for my company, what's up, Quentin, says that his report is that it is not true yet. Now, the background in Quentin Mayo is Quentin is from D.C. and has a Wizards podcast, and I do believe has some intel in there. But what does the report even mean that it's not true yet? Jake's report is that nothing had happened yet.
Right. It's not true yet that he is thinking about asking for a trade to maybe some of these teams or teams that are similar also in cities like this.
Correct. And then finally, seemingly very plugged in, and I believe that he is plugged in. I just don't know where he is plugged in. Certainly in Philadelphia. Jason Dumas, who is from here and now works out in the Bay, does TV out in the Bay and radio out in the Bay, says that if Bradley Beal does request a trade, he won't want to go to Boston to play with his friend Jason Tatum. So that's the whole of everything. I think I've made clear I'd be happy with either guy, Lillard or Beal, though I strongly favor Lillard. Is it fair to say that though you favor Lillard, you don't strongly favor Lillard in the same way that I strongly favor him? Yeah. Okay. And would what you have to trade come into that if there's two things on the table and Lillard is like the monster package and Beal is 75% of the monster package, does that inform your decision at all? Or is it just if you can get Lillard, get Lillard?
I wouldn't consider that Washington will be like, yeah, we'll take 75% of what they're offering Lillard. To those teams, I think it's probably the same. I think that they will say, give us everything. Mm-hmm. This is our franchise cornerstone. This is our star. They're still young enough to contribute. They're still on long-term contracts. Beal's got a couple years left still, right?
No, Beal can opt out after next season.
He can opt out.
Yeah.
But the idea would be they would trade him to a place that he would want to stay for a long time.
That would be the idea, yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that there's going to be that much difference in the haul. So it's not like you can get a discount on a Brad Beal situation. And possibly Chicago might, if they think this way, be thinking the same thing with Zach LaVine. Like they might be like, he's just as good, he's younger, he's whatever. So I don't know that any of those deals you're like, we don't have to pay this much. I think it would be the same across the board because it is like franchise cornerstone level talent. It's interesting. I would like, we've been in this rumor situation for a long time of like possibilities.
100 years.
I like that.
100 years.
I like that Daryl has been. There hasn't been, Sixers prepared to settle for whatever the fuck they can get. There was that Newbeck report about just basically making fun of all the Sacramento deals that were floated, any that don't include De'Aaron Fox. So I think that the positioning-wise, the Sixers on the Ben front are operating from a position of strength still because there's still time. But in other departments, it's just really going to depend on what those teams want. Like, obviously, the Harden trade was specific in that Houston really didn't want to trade Harden to Daryl, which is funny.
I don't believe that. I
do believe it. I believe it 100%. Didn't want it. Never, not a chance.
The Sixers, but like the deal with the Sixers was like basically done. For context, like that deal, like Ben Simmons was informed that the deal was going to happen. So whether that was Houston fucking with him, I don't know. But I don't believe that for what it's worth. And we can obviously disagree, but I don't believe that they didn't. Maybe if they had their druthers, they don't send him here, but I don't believe that they were never going to trade him here.
Is that you reporting this, or was this reported elsewhere?
This is me saying this is what I am led to believe.
Okay. I still think that they were never trading to him. If that's the case, that he was informed that it was happening and then it was pulled out, then I even more think that was the case, that they did it out of spite because of how much the Sixers just keep stealing things from Houston, and Tillman is upset. Just
to interrupt and ask, do you think it is more likely, and I'm genuinely asking, that you believe that in the same way of they made Hinkie draft Okafor way, like the personal protection, or what you genuinely believe?
I think I genuinely believe both things.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget what I was saying. Anyway, the Houston, the Harden situation was different because I didn't think they were traded, so it was just like get as many picks as possible. If they want, it depends what the haul they want is, right? Like I could see a world where Portland doesn't want to do what Houston did last year, and they're not interested in winning 17 games and losing interest and everything like that. Even though it turned out pretty well for Houston, they got a top pick. And so if they want that, if Houston wants or if Portland wants for Lillard 7 picks that are going to be pretty high draft picks and several pick swaps and all that stuff, the Sixers aren't going to be able to offer that to them because their picks theoretically are not going to be that high, so it's not going to be worth it. They'll have to trade them to a team that has a bunch of loaded picks, whether that's like Oklahoma City or New Orleans or whatever. But if they want someone like, if they internally value Simmons higher, then that would be a situation that they could go with. I don't see Washington being that situation because they have Beal and Westbrook. If you trade Beal, you have Westbrook, and Westbrook Simmons doesn't work, so I don't think that would have to be some part of a 3-team trade. So I feel like it's actually less likely that Washington would want to send Simmons here or send Beal here in exchange for Simmons, unless there's a 3-team deal situation. And I think not that anything Levine has been rumored lately, but if there is a Levine situation, I do think Ben would be a better fit there with Vucevic. So it's like who wants what, who could fit what, who feels like they could trade this person that's not that happy and still convince their fans that we're competing and we're surrounding these other guys with a better chance, whatever it is. And so I'm intrigued by how that goes, but I don't know what's more likely than anything else right now. I'm soaking in the vapors from draft week rumors.
To be clear, I don't think they're going to trade Levine, and there have not been, while there have been whispers about the other two, I've not read any public whispers about Levine. So I think like that's partly us hoping and projecting, but right? I mean, I haven't seen any Zach LaVine doesn't want to be here and they don't want to sign him. Like I haven't seen any of that. Not to say that it doesn't exist, but I haven't read any of it. Would you, if Washington called up and said, "Hey, we'll trade Beal to you. We will, but you have to take Westbrook, and we will give you Beal and Westbrook for Ben and Tobias and 2 first-round picks." Would you do that?
Ben and Westbrook and Beal and Westbrook and 2 first-round picks.
No, from the Sixers have to trade Ben, Tobias, 2 firsts for Beal and Westbrook.
I mean, maybe.
Wow, I didn't think you would be there. I keep going back and forth in that I just saw Westbrook in the playoffs last year, and it was so bad. He seems like a ceiling limiter almost. Like it would be impossible to win the title with him on the court, though it seems more possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
It could be the kind of thing where you do that to get Beal and then trade Westbrook to some rebuilding team.
Yeah.
That you can then...
Maybe you attach a couple picks to Westbrook and get a few role
players. That's a lot of
something.
movement.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff. And I do think that they value Tobias as a leader, as a guy. And he is coming off the best season of his career. So,
yeah, well, we'll see. Something coming up. We talk about right now our sponsor, Body Bio. Love Body Bio. Here's Calm. I got to say, I've had probably the most stressful, crazy few weeks of my life. And I decided, really, let me see if this stuff works for me at all. And it does. And I do not use it at night like to calm down or whatever. What I do is going to work, I am always my most wired and stressed out. And I have so much to think about that's hard to focus. And what I do is I take this stuff, Calm, from Body Bio, before I go to work. And it's helped. I feel like it's helped. It's all natural stuff. Amino acids and adaptogens. Comes from a company that is right here in Jersey. Family owned, family operated. A supplement company is good to be family owned and operated because they're not some big company. So when science changes, they can change too. I'm telling you, this stuff has been a godsend. Give it a try. Body Bio Calm. I've also mentioned Elite, which I take to stay hydrated. I used to have cramping problems in my feet and my legs from running because I'm not good at hydrating. There's no artificial flavors, there's no sugar, there's no artificial colorings. It is just keeping you hydrated. Cap full in the morning, cap full at night. bodybio.com. I'm fucking telling you. Use code RTRS20 at bodybio.com. You not only get 20% off Calm or Elite, you'll get 20% off of anything they have. Go to bodybio.com, use RTRS20, BodyBio, BodyBio, BodyBio. Speaking of BodyBio, they sponsor all of Mike O'Connor's writing. And Mike O'Connor wrote a thing on rightstoRickySanchez.com yesterday, is something he had been working on for weeks and weeks and weeks. His 11 easy steps to fixing the NBA. Informed a lot, he says, by watching EuroLeague and how they handle, they handle a lot of the same things, and the game sort of flows better. I want to run his 11 steps by you, and I would like you to give me a how much would this help rating and a how likely is it happening rating. I can do the same one. His first one has zero chance of happening, but bring it up anyway. He says you don't need a color commentator. And it's not so much that the color commentators are bad, it's that the game moves too fast. It's an impossible job. It's not like football. And they almost never tell you what's happening in any meaningful way. So he says single announcer format.
Yeah, it's 0% chance happening. I also think it's a dumb idea. I think that the game is not moving too fast to where, like, you need the play-by-play announcer to say everything all the time. Like, you don't need him to be like, whoa.
I mean, what's that? That sounds
my
like...
alarm.
Uh-oh. Oh, it's your home alarm. Is there an intruder?
No. Alyssa woke up. That's the intruder.
I was going to say, it would be great to have a live intruder on the pod.
No, that wouldn't be good. I would ask him some questions. That'd be fun.
Ask him if you'd rather have Beal or Lillard.
So I would say that it's unlikely to happen, 0% happening. But I also think, like, they just need to be better. Like, you don't need the play-by-play announcer to say, like, here's every single thing happening on the court, as if, like, you don't have your eyes to be able to do it. Although obviously some viewers don't. I just think they should be better and more and more. He mentions the, like, football announcers, which I think are not excellent, but a lot of them are pretty decent. And, like, football fans have a better understanding of the game than, like, the casual basketball fan does.
I do not believe that to be true, by the way. I think he's wrong 100%.
I think as far as, like, he brought up, like, personnel. Like, I don't think that basketball fans are, like, casuals, I guess, are acknowledging, like, oh, this is the coverage that they're running. Like, in football, the announcers at least talk about it in that sense. And I think in basketball, for the most part, it's just like a lot of the main guys on ESPN or TNT or whatever don't do a good job. Some do, but I think it's more of a problem of, like, hey, prove why you're there. Be valuable in some way.
Maybe say less. Maybe say less. You know?
Yeah, I don't mind saying less, but I think, and I don't mind a conversation. I don't think you have to talk about the game the whole time. I think that is, like, sort of one of the delights of baseball occasionally is like the tangents that you go on, although that sport it sort of lends itself to being a little bit more easy breezy. But yeah, I think that certainly color commentators, especially on the national level, should be better. And they should figure out, like, what they do, why are they there, but I don't think getting rid of them is the answer.
The next one, I don't know that anyone would disagree with. He talks about speeding up in-game stoppages, and there is just, like, a lot of lollygagging in every in-game stoppage in the NBA. It, like, after a foul is called, like, there's just so much nonsense that I think slows it down, that if there was a way to approach that better, that would be great. It seems like something they should be able to do, but I don't know. Like, they get back from commercial and it's still another fucking 3 minutes before they start playing again a lot of times. So I would agree with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't mind telling the officials to, like, speed it along and have and ask the players to participate in that as well.
The number 3, remove replays and the coach's challenge. I am wholeheartedly against replay in every sport. He says remove 90% of replays and the coach's challenge. I think in basketball, the problem is that almost every thing that they're replaying is, like, sort of ambiguous as to whether they should have called it or not. It's like holding in the NFL. It's like you can sort of watch and find a foul on every play if you want. I hate replay. I hate coach's challenge. It's dumb. I agree. Seems like it's possible, by the way, that they would at least tone it down, though I don't think they would remove it.
I think one coach's challenge or two is totally fine, and the idea of like when to use it, I think, is a good strategic tool in a coach's toolbox. I don't think that they need to. I've said this a million times. Like, the flagrant foul replays kill me. It's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. It feels like it's people that have not watched basketball ever being like, "Oh, that's a hard foul. We have to go like check." And oh, like he grazed his head. It means that he's violent and needs to be dealt with. Like, it's just stupid. Just like watch the games and get a feel for it. You know when things are too aggressive. Like, refs should know when things are like that. That is more than the necessary foul situation, and then they should go from there. We don't need to review it 45 times. And replays, out of bounds replays, I think are tough. I would do it maybe in the last, like, I know they did check it. Maybe limited to the last minute, because those are big calls. And a lot of times it is bang bang, like where it's the same time and who knows. But sometimes it is like that's a game swinging play, and it is a little clearer that it was on this person, and so you do need it. So maybe limit it to the last minute in that situation. But I agree that the replays are too much for sure.
Number 4, start the games on time. Look, if we're going to know that they're going to list the time as 7 o'clock, but it's not going to start till 7:20, and it's always going to be like that, that's fine. But it does seem random and unpredictable with start times as to when the game is actually starting, if it's starting at that time or not starting at that time. Drives me crazy. I'm sure there's some reason they do it. It's fucking annoying. It's probably unlikely they'll ever change it, but I would love it.
Sure.
So he talks about jerseys. So his statement is he wants them to bring back home whites, or at least note that there should be some difference in tone between the colors of the jerseys. One bright, one dark. I'd never thought about it that way. He does talk about it. It seems like a league that is so concerned with appearance is so bad at jerseys. There's so many bad jerseys. It seems unbelievable. I think some of the best uniforms in sports are the clean white ones. The Sixers, I feel that way. Toronto Maple Leafs, I think, have awesome, clean white jerseys. I would be in favor of this. I don't think it's that big a deal, but it would be nice if there was some contrast. He did have some screenshots of lack of jersey contrast.
Don't care. Sorry. Not a jersey guy.
He says eliminate take fouls and cheap fouls. Take fouls being the things that happen in the backcourt when you know there's going to be a fast break. And he's saying just make them intentionals and 2 shots in the ball. He said you're eliminating some of the most fun part of basketball, which is fast breaks. I think it's an interesting point. I do think it's odd that you basically get to foul whenever you want. And since the ref knows that you're doing it, sometimes it even gets called when it's not a foul because they know it's going to happen. I think it slows the game down, and I would be in favor of that. I don't know why they wouldn't change it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how much it would help. I think teams might still do that. They might still give fouls even with the threat of that. I think an open dunk is still, I think, even just as from momentum, some teams might decide to do that.
Ooh, 2 shots in the ball, really?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would like to be eliminated, though.
More perimeter physicality allowed on defense. I don't think it needs to be the 90s. I would agree, though, that they have swung pretty far in the allowing perimeter players to do whatever they want thing. And, Olympic rules are a little bit different, you can see. What do you think about that?
Well, I think part of it is one of the things he has later in the article is the like bullshit fouls.
Yep.
And we can take those together, like
the
junky, swing through, rip through, go through a pick and roll and stop and then throw your ass out and then they run into you kind of thing. I feel like because those fouls, those like non-basketball fouls are called, it prevents players from being as physical as they otherwise would be, because then it's like if you're that close, if you're playing them, if you're bodying them up and stuff, then it becomes very easy for them to just get a foul drawn. So I think those kind of things go hand in hand. And I would say less. I would say eliminating those bullshit things that a lot of, Harden, Chris Paul, Trae Young, those kinds of guys get, and Embiid sometimes get the benefit of that aren't really basketball plays. If you eliminate them, then naturally there will be some more physicality on the perimeter, and it wouldn't be in danger of swinging too far in the other direction.
Number 8, more delay of game calls for complaining to officials. I wholeheartedly agree. Everybody complains on every fucking play. It's just enough already. It's become annoying. I don't know anybody. I can't think of any positive to it, honestly. Let the coach complain. I agree.
Sure.
Yeah. Loyalty incentives in the cap for basically allowing teams to pay the players as much as they're paying them now, so the player salaries don't change. But if the player stays with the team that they're already with, it counts less against the cap and allows the team to build more around that player without being hampered by the giant cap number. What do you think?
I think it's a pretty good idea. I think that players might not give a fuck
because they're
much.
Making so much at this point.
They're making a lot of money. It's more like, I don't know. I mean, Giannis obviously is an outlier in that he stayed and won, and he won as young as he did. Dame or Beal or whatever, it's a different situation. I think they're not saying, oh, if only we had more cap room to acquire someone that could help me win. I don't know that they're necessarily thinking about it like that. I think they're just kind of do a better job, trade these young guys or trade these picks, whatever it is. I don't know how much they feel that the team salary cap is prohibitive. In the same way that hey, congrats if you if they would get an extra first round pick out of it, they wouldn't really give a shit about that either. So I think it's a good idea to do for teams to incentivize keeping their guys long term if they want to be there, and maybe a little bit for some players it might make a difference that there's a little more cap room for them to work. I think maybe MOC went a little bit far in how much of a percentage gets cut out of the cap, but some of it, I think, is a smart idea. Yeah,
I mean, because some of those smaller markets that aren't glamour markets may have to overpay to get the pieces they need, and this would allow them to do that. I think that is an important part of this, where somebody might take $10 million to play in Miami, but if you could pay him $15 million, maybe you get him to Portland or Oklahoma City or whatever. He acknowledges number 10 will never happen, but it's shortened the season. The problem is everybody would just make less money. I don't know how it happens. It would be great, but we don't need 82 games. We don't need 162 baseball games, but I don't think it would ever happen. But
yes and no. I mean, I like watching basketball. I don't mind it that much, but I get why the players would want to do it.
And then
it's too much.
And then finally, his number 11, basically that everyone comes together and agrees, the league, the players, the media, to focus less on the soap opera bullshit of basketball and more on basketball. He says that I tend to disagree with his point that no league denigrates players for not winning as much as the NBA. I think it happens with quarterbacks in the NFL a lot. It definitely doesn't happen in baseball, but sport is covered a different way. I think, a quick thing about where players go in super teams. I do think that there is a lessening interest in super teams. When Miami it was new and it was exciting and it was fun for everybody to cheer against them. It seems like nobody really cared about the Nets on a national perspective. Maybe it was the year, maybe it was that, one of them didn't play the whole time. But even the LeBron and AD thing, it just feels like there's diminishing returns in interest. And I think that leads to this is that while a lot of the soap opera stuff does drive digital engagement, for articles and tweets and things like that, I think it takes too much focus off of the game. And at the end, people have to watch the games for the league to be successful and enjoy watching the games. And I think while this may give the illusion of more interest, it actually is less interest in the games. And I think it's part of It's a bad part of the NBA the last 5 or 6 years. I don't know how likely it is to happen, but I think they would benefit from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's an inherent laziness in mainstream basketball coverage. I think it's always like, this guy is good. When's he going to go to a market that we can like care about? And I think that's stupid. I think the NBA is in like a really prime area. I think there's so many great young players around the league that are special and different. And I think the way that they get covered on some of the main shows is stupid. And I think that it's a lot of lowest common denominator stuff. And I think part of that is who the people have hired, like the former players, to talk about it. They don't seem like they want to talk about like the game that much. They seem that they've, but it's also like, I think a lot of it in the producers like saying like, this is what they want. And they're being like taught of like, this is how you have to talk about the game on TV. And I think it just like keeps going down to like lowest common denominator stuff. It bums me out. I don't really watch those anymore because I think that they do a bad job. But I think the league's in great shape if they just like focus on how good the players are and how exciting the game is right now.
Right. Yeah. And that's like sometimes you have to make a decision for something that may work less in the near term for more working in the far term. So
there's just no reason why you can't be like, hey, trades are exciting and look at all these teams making different, rumors and stuff. But also like, hey, how good are these players? Like how has Devin Booker improved his game and from this year to this year and gone from not even in the playoffs once to getting to the finals? Like different things like that. Like they could talk about it more and dive into those kinds of things. But it's so much more like just what does it mean for your legacy? Like everything. It's always like the same
and
shit.
that stuff has always been a fun part of sports, but it doesn't have to be the only thing we talk about.
It's a balance. For sure.
So it is time for the Soft Shit Award. Mike has a couple minutes to think about who he's going to give the Soft Shit Award to. It's obviously brought to you by Nature Pet Food. Fucking great for your pet. You are what you eat. Your pet has got to eat good food, high-quality food with high-quality ingredients. By Nature does that. Why is the Soft Shit Award named By Nature? Well, if you feed your pet by nature, you're going to have firm bowel movements from your dog or cat. That's what you want. When you're walking your dog or you're cleaning up the litter box, you want firm bowel movements. High-quality ingredients, super fusion from By Nature Pet Food. Premium proteins, super ingredients, super probiotics, and cooked the right way, slow cooked, so it stays more nutrient rich for your pet. In 40 years, the company that owns By Nature, family owned, family operated, been around for 40 years, they've never had a recall. Recalls happen in pet food all the time. They're terrifying, having been through one. By Nature's never had one. That's a huge statement about them. By Nature is great for you. Great, well, not you. Well, I ate it, and I felt good too. But great for your dog, great for your cat. Use promo code 20RTRS, 20RTRS at Chewy or Amazon, and get 20% off your first By Nature order. Again, that is 20RTRS. And then send us a picture of your dog, your cat. We'll put them in the Good Boy Club, the Good Girl Club. Love seeing By Nature pets. So again, promo code is 20RTRS at Amazon or Chewy for By Nature Pet Foods. Mike, who does this week's Soft Shit Award go to?
I'm going to give it to Michael Rubin. I think that the idea that like you need, sort of scrounging around begging your friend, your like superstar friends to like wish you a happy birthday and like tell everyone like it's actually my birthday. It's actually my birthday's coming up. So I'm going to have
his best life.
You're 50 some years old. You have like a t-shirt company and like you own a team. Like just like relax, like hang out with like 20 somethings, like get over yourself. It's too much. Soft Shit Award goes to you.
He's just having a good time. Michael.
Too much. Too much. Go away.
Oh, come on. Jeez Louise. All right. It's time for the annual big boards. I have to admit, and why don't we say the big boards this year are brought to us by our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding. I am wearing my Kinetic sweatpants right now. I have so many Kinetic things. I don't even skateboard. That shows the value of Kinetic Skateboarding. Promo code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. KineticSkateboarding.com. This was the hardest year ever for me to do the YouTube big board scouting. The combination of crazy busy schedule and just the seeming unlikelihood of Daryl picking anyone with the 28 pick and moving up to talk about one of these players. I eventually got into it and had some fun watching. But man, it was a tough one for me this year, Mike.
Yeah, I actually do kind of think that they're, over the last couple of days, I've thought they are going to make the pick. Because unless there's a Ben trade that happens, I find it difficult to believe that they're just going to make some trade, like a George Hill trade or something before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe they acquire somebody in the Horford trade exception for the pick. I guess there's a possibility that happens, but I think the more likely thing is it's a Mo Harkless type situation where they draft them with the idea
for
of
somebody else.
Not even for somebody else, because I think it wouldn't have been figured out yet. But the idea of let's draft someone that we're not going to care if they fit on our team, which is not like the Sixers are drafting for fit anyway. Like they need somebody to a 20-year-old to step in right away. But I think the idea is we'll draft somebody and hope that boosts their stock or something, like someone who falls or something. We'll just take the best value and hope that, unlike most first-round picks where once you drive off the lot, it becomes less valuable. Drafting somebody that's that's a special talent that could be the steal of the draft type thing, and they trade him before in a Ben package before the season starts.
Well, and we could also see, it could be a exciting draft night because the trade, a giant trade could happen in draft night with the Sixers, which would be a lot of fun, I think. A lot better than waiting until 1 a.m. to talk about the guy they took at 50 or whatever the fuck happens.
No, we're waiting. We're going to keep waiting. We're definitely waiting.
Well, if the trade happens during the draft, we got to talk about it immediately.
Not a chance.
Oh,
not a chance.
What if they trade for Lillard? You don't want to go live, right?
We'll wait till the end of the draft to assess what happened in full.
No,
and we will talk about that extensively.
I'll fucking bring CJ on if I have to. So this year, I always do a top 10. I only did a top 7.
Wow.
I do have some notes on other players that didn't make my top 10. Maybe as you do your top 7, maybe as you do yours, I'll have some comments, whatever. We normally do me first and then you. Do you want to do it that way?
Yeah.
Okay. I like a lot all of the guys in my top 7. Sometimes I feel bullied into putting one of them in there. Maybe I feel a little bit that way about one of them, but all in all, I love my top 7. Number 7, Evan Mobley. So I don't usually like centers on YouTube, especially for this. And I usually look at it and go, how could anyone take that guy with a pick that high? But this guy does seem incredibly skilled for a big man. Has a soft touch, seems to have some moves, has a good body. I don't know what the negatives on him are, honestly, but he moves well. He seems pretty advanced as far as skill-wise for a player his size and his age. So, number 7, Evan Mobley.
Yeah, Evan Mobley's the man. I really like him a lot. Alyssa went to SC, so I watched a ton of SC this year. I've seen him almost all of his games. He's a center, came out after his freshman year. He's a clean 7 foot. He's skinny. He's not very, fully built yet, but he's long, and he uses his length really impressively. He's sort of like a more fluid Jaren Jackson, a little bit I think a better passer as well. Moves his feet really well on the perimeter and is an incredible shot blocker inside. Has like you said, has really nice touch. Didn't really shoot from the outside too much at SC, but it's really easy to see how he will in his NBA career be able to step out and hit threes. I love him. I think he's excellent. If I'm drafting that high, I don't think he's ever going to be a number 1 go-to option. And for centers that you draft that high, especially in this draft, I worry about teams expecting him to be a number 1 dude and him just not necessarily having that skill set. So I think he'll be a more talented, better defensive DeAndre Ayton type of thing for a while. I think Chris Bosh has been thrown around a little bit. Obviously different era. But I think he's a really, really, really good player. I think he's absolutely going to be a pro. I kind of would love to see him. It's not going to happen, but I would love to see him next to Karl-Anthony Towns in Minnesota and just do a sort of fill in his gaps while also being able to stretch the floor and do a weird Twin Towers thing there. It's not going to happen because of the lottery, but Evan Mobley's cool.
Your point about Ayton is right. If he can go to a place where they already have a premier sort perimeter option, then that would be, I think, a positive for him. That there's There's no pressure on him to be a number one guy. And really, it's complicated to build around those guys as big guys anyway. As
For
we're
sure.
finding
He's
out.
got such impressive reaction time, like quick twitch. Like he can just get up so fast. I think he's great. I think I think he's like longer, potentially more impactful defensive Horford type of thing, which is not like the sexiest pick in the top 4, but I think he's really good.
Number 6, I have Josh Giddey.
Oh,
He reminds me of maybe a taller Ricky Rubio. He is a sick passer, has and I didn't want to be fooled by overseas YouTube, which can happen, but like he's got a smooth shot. He seems like he's pretty refined offensively for how young he is. Like, I don't know, good shooter. Like I watched him thinking he will either get into the league and bounce around for a few years until he's good, until he's like until he grows into his body and becomes a real NBA player, or is like EuroLeague MVP fucking 15 times and comes over when he's 31 or something. But dude, he's a really good player.
he's good. I think he's coming over now. I don't think that's a concern of him not coming to the States. Yeah, he's like 6'8", point guard, Australian, playing with Matisse currently. Yeah, big passer and like has some ball skills. The shot is not excellent right now, but it's, people see growth in it. Defensively, he's a little bit weak, but he's big enough to maybe mitigate those concerns. He's good. He's an interesting player. I think, Saturansky with a little more shake to his game kind of thing. But he watched LaMelo in Australia last year, do very well and then come here and do even better. And I think that's the path he's trying to be on.
Well, he does see the floor, obviously in a really sick way, Mm-hmm. Number 5, Keon Johnson.
Yeah. Bucket
getter. Reminds me of Karis LeVert, but with more ups. Loved him. So
Keon was a freshman at Tennessee. Posted the biggest vertical in combine history, I believe. Mm-hmm. I believe that happened. Just a ridiculous athlete, powerful athlete. Similar body type to Donovan Mitchell, and also wore number 45, so similar, even just looked similar out there. He works his ass off, plays hard, has a developing offensive game, but isn't quite refined yet. The shot is going to be the swing skill. Defensively, he works hard. There's some perimeter initiator in him, but he's still pretty raw. But the athleticism is ridiculous.
Number 4 seems to be the unanimous number 1, or almost unanimous number 1, is Cade Cunningham. So he's obviously a good scorer, a good shooter, has a nice little handle, good passer. When I watch him, he seems like maybe he's a little slow. And I worry about the NBA tightening up what you can do defensively on the perimeter. And guards that don't seem like they can get by somebody real easily always make me nervous. And that he's obviously good, but he seems a little slow to me.
Yeah, he definitely does not pop as an athlete. He's more smooth than anything else, obviously. Bobby Brady style. Cade is 6'8", freshman, went to Oklahoma State, has been primed as the number 1 pick for a long time in the same way Ben was. Just his game is pretty similar to Luka's. He doesn't, I would say Oklahoma State was terrible last year. Their team, they made the tournament and ended up being okay, but his surrounding supporting cast was awful. Just he had nobody to pass to. Nobody was hitting shots, so it made it look worse. And so I think in some ways he had to do more self-creation, but he is more naturally a passer. He is naturally a see the floor, set other guys up type of thing. And I think in the NBA he's definitely going to do a lot of that. But he proved capable of hitting a ton of difficult shots, and he just has he has a very easy comfort to his game. Mm-hmm. that allows him to get wherever he wants, and he's big enough to do it. And he's a better defensive player than Luka is right away, immediately. And does he have like the unstoppability offensively with the ball in his hands that Luka does? I would say probably not quite, but great vision, great player. He's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about him.
Number 3, I'm afraid I haven't had any screw-ups yet. I don't know if is it Davion Mitchell or Davion Mitchell? Davion Mitchell. I love guys like this. So he's not big, but plays like an animal, pulls up from anywhere, good passer, seems to be able to get in the lane whenever he wants, plays hard on defense. He's small, so I don't know how that translates to the NBA, but like watching him was sort of like if Kyle Lowry had more pop to him is sort of what he reminded me of. I think he's great.
Yeah, that's not wrong. I love Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell is a old I think he's junior or senior, but he's like in 21 or 22. Went to Baylor, national champion. Had transferred from Auburn initially, and really took a giant leap forward this year, and like improved his stock in the tournament in a way that I haven't seen in like years. There used to be talk about guys who were like, oh, they had a great tournament, and look at how now they're this lottery pick. And I feel like that hasn't happened that much lately. I feel like most guys are already pretty settled, but he made a huge leap. He is small. He's basically 6 foot. You could maybe give him 6'1". He's a dog on the defensive end, but he's not that long. So I don't know how much he's going to be able to bother guys that are just bigger than him, but he works his ass off. He's super fast with the ball in his hands, not creative with the ball in his hands, more like functional speed, straight line. Mm-hmm. He's opened up Baylor had such like a fluidity to the team that there was a real ease of just knowing where guys were going to be. And so he just made he drives, like you said, like gets into the paint super easy, and then immediately makes an easy pass to find a guy in the corner or whatever. The concern is that like he's not a good shooter. He shot in the 40s from 3 this year, but that was a giant leap forward from last year, and he still shot in the 60s, I think, from the line.
Yeah, that's the alarm.
So there's a concern of that. Like, is he, coming into the season, I love Davion as a guy that's like, I think he could be a sixth man type, just like because he's fast, because he works hard defensively, in like kind of like what campaign is for Phoenix. And then he played so well, and then the shot was good enough, at least in this sample size, to be like people are ranking him now in the top 10, which I think is a little crazy because of how limited he is in some other areas. But I love him. I think he's a great kid. He's really, really fun to root for. Pretty similar to Maxey, honestly. Less creativity, probably a little better defensively right now, and just super fast with the ball in his hand, which is really fun.
My number 2 is Chris Duarte.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I love Duarte. So Chris Duarte went to Oregon for 2 years. He was in JUCO before that because of basically, I read from Sam Vecini because of a language barrier. I hadn't known that. He was committed to Western Kentucky and apparently didn't pass a language test, so he had to go to JUCO.
He has these J.R. Smith or John Starks fucking vibes where he seems like he's just an animal. I don't know, plays hard all the time. Looks like a good shooter, a good finisher.
He's a great shooter. He's an excellent shooter. So he's just 24. Okay. He's just old. So he immediately walked onto Oregon's campus and from JUCO and started and was the second best player next to Peyton Pritchard. And then after Pritchard left last year, he became the guy and played really well and showed perimeter creation and really good shot making and finishing inside. And he's pretty long. I think he's the Desmond Bane of this draft. I think there's a little bit more ball handling and fluidity to it. But definitely old. The idea is that there's not much upside, although I think he's just a really good player. He's a really easy kid to root for and plays his ass off and is a great shooter. All those things combined, 3-and-D definite with some creation abilities. That is, even though he's old, that is just an easy yes from me.
Just feels like the sort of guy that you could put on any NBA roster. You know what I mean? Like
For sure.
any team would be able to use him. And the thing, and obviously a person who is 19 has more room to get better theoretically than a person that is 24. But we can't forget the amount of players that get better between 24 and 28, like significantly. And if they have a great work ethic, there's a better chance that happens. So, like, obviously, if you're looking for a superstar, he's probably never going to be a superstar. But I do think even at 24, there's a lot of room to get better. Malcolm Brogdon was pretty like old when he came in, right? He was like 23 or 24 or something like that, and like he's become a better player. I think almost every year he's been in the NBA. So I don't know. I liked him. And number 1, Jalen Suggs.
Oh wow. Wasn't expecting. I thought you were going to go Jalen Green.
No, so I can talk about him. I do have some notes on him. I don't know. Jalen Suggs looks like fucking Dame Lillard to me.
No.
Yes.
He's not a shooter. He's not. That's my concern with Suggs. So Suggs, obviously freshman, Gonzaga. You're going to hear 1,000 times that he was a quarterback in high school at Minnesota, 2-sport athlete. Plays his ass off. Smart player. Really good defensively. Can move his feet really well. Sees the court just like for how as a freshman he's not. I think he's kind of old for a freshman, but as a freshman being as like comfortable as he was. And just like in control, and plays really fast and hard, and like he's a football. You can tell he's a football player by how he like moves and is physical and stuff. He's a great player. He's going to play for good teams his whole career. The shot for me is a real concern.
Is it? That's what happens when you watch highlights. He makes all the shots.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, there's the shot is a concern, and how much like creativity there is in his handle of like what is his role on the offensive end, especially in his first year where he's probably going to play for a team that's not that great. Although if he goes to Toronto, maybe he steps right in.
How high is he supposed to go?
4.
Oh, okay.
3 or 4.
Okay.
There's a chance he goes 2, but he's not going to fall past 4. Yeah, he's awesome. He's an awesome kid, and he's also really good friends with Paige Beckers, who is going to be the number 1 pick in a couple years out of UConn. And she's really cool. And so they're very, there's no complaints about Jalen Suggs as a human being or as a player. And he's going to be really easy to root for a long time. I just think as a number 1 option, I struggle. That's why I have Mobley and Suggs as my 3-4 because I just struggle to see them as number 1 options offensively. And I think Cade and Jalen Green, I think, have that capability of doing.
Before we get to Mike's board, we'd like to congratulate number 221. That's right, 221 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL Pavorsky Jewelers. He's on a run right now, buddy. It's the summer of love. I can't believe we're up to 221. LL was the original sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. And not only can you get an engagement ring, not only was he the original sponsor, but the summer cabana sale is going on right now. Only happens once a year in the summer, goes until the middle of August. Enormous deals, up to 70% off. Amazing jewelry. From already amazing priced jewelry up to 70% off. Just go to llpavorsky.com for details. This guy is trustworthy. He's a good man. He's dressed well. He's now svelte as shit. Like he's a model of health. I just married to his high school sweetheart, been in the same spot on Walnut Street for over 30 years. Just come on. You can't go to anybody else. He's the guy. You listen to the Ricky, you go to LL Pavorsky Jewelers. If you want to make an appointment with LL, 215-627-2252. Email lee@llpavorsky.com. Tweet at him @LLPavorsky. 707 Walnut is where the store is. And a supporter of our charities, Providence Animal Center, Coded by Kids, LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
You saying Summer of Love just made me think that ladies love Pavorsky, and I just can't believe, every once in a while it hits me that I just can't believe his name is LL and goes by LL.
Yes, and we're just like, yeah, okay, it's LL.
We do it, we say that's his name, of course, and every once in a while it hits me like a ton of bricks, like what a special guy. Unbelievable.
All right, it's time for Mike's big board.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep to go. I think it's probably easier to just go like a rip through my top 10 and then talk about a couple guys that we could maybe see the Sixers getting at 28 or maybe even 50 if they fall.
Okay. I'll note if I have notes on any of those.
Yeah,
guys.
you note.
Okay.
10 I have Duarte, which is higher than like anybody has him. So we agree on that. I think he's just a great player. I think he's just like the specialness of being able to step in right now and be good on both ends with potential like, well, maybe if that dribbling improves, then he can be like an actual like secondary like initiator on like a really good team. And I think that there's possibility of the shot. So I love him. 9, I have Scotty Barnes from Florida State. He's
I have him.
He was like a big wing initiator. Florida State's always so interesting in Leonard Hamilton's offense, where like he just has a bunch of big guys kind of do whatever. Like Raekwon Gray also was like a 6'5", like 280 perimeter initiator. And Scotty like basically played point guard on this team. He is a special kid in that he like plays his ass off. He's supposedly a joy to be around. He's huge and he's physical and he works his ass off defensively. People have him higher. People have him going like 5 to Orlando, and which would be in my mind insane because they just keep drafting like. Orlando just continues to draft power forwards, just like over and over again, just repeatedly drafting, Chuma Okeke and Jonathan Isaac, and Scotty Barnes is like another guy in that mold. But he's a really, really good defensive player. I think ultimately he will land as a like more athletic Draymond. Maybe I guess that's not giving Draymond enough credit, but like the kind of player that is like, I think he is a small ball 5 type of guy. If you pair him with a center who can shoot, then he could really pop, especially just covering 1 through 4. But I think he's an all defense candidate, and I think he has in the open court like a level of specialness. I think that in offensively he is a little bit lacking to me. That's why I have him lower than other guys, because he's not a great shooter, and I don't think he's so creative with the ball in his hands. So like what is his role really offensively, unless you allow him to basically be that screen and roll, short roll type of guy. But the package is special, and if he improves as a shooter, then obviously he's going to be really, really good. And I like him, I just don't love him.
My notes on him, he is fine. He is definitely not a YouTube guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Number 8, I have Jaden Springer, who is a point guard who went to Tennessee. He was Keon Johnson's point guard. Similar thing. First of all, I'm not a jersey guy, but I love the Tennessee jerseys. You can't beat it. Like, just unbelievable.
Sounds like a jersey guy.
Get those boys in pinstripes. Can't beat it. So Jaden Springer was the more highly touted prospect coming into the season, and then Keon just flashed his athleticism and just made everybody's eyes pop. But I think Jaden Springer had a very nice season. He is similar, like 6'4" guard, but with the ass and demeanor of like a 6 foot guard, like a Lowry style thing. He's physical, he's strong, he is athletic in like a sort of like in the in-between spaces. He's not going to like jump out of the gym or anything, but he has that really like side-to-side sort of absorb contact and finish through it and like get in these little holes type of thing. He's a really good player, and the shot works, and he's really, really impressive on the defensive end, and I think he'll be able to cover 3 or 4 because he's so hard to move positions defensively. I think he's really, really good. The question is like, how much of a creator is he? Like his court vision is just okay. So I think if it was better, then he'd be higher up there. But I think he is an immediate two-way guard that can defend multiple positions and be a net positive. So I like him a lot. Did you watch him?
I probably did, but I don't have any notes on him.
Okay.
I try to watch everybody who's listed. I'll like Google like draft prospects, and anybody that's like listed in the top 50 I look at.
It's foolproof. It's a foolproof pen.
Well,
Google top prospects, please.
Bro,
answer me.
We often end up with a very similar top 10. That's all I'm saying.
True.
Just
I
in
guess
different orders.
Maybe an indictment of me. So I think he'll probably go in the mid to late teens. If the Sixers loved him, there's a chance that they could get him. Unlike some of these other guys, I think that are going to be gone. Although Duarte, I think Duarte got promised, I think, by somebody in the early 20s. So I think there's a Matisse level, somebody just like committing to him right away.
Do you think Elton maybe promised it to a pick he doesn't even have? He's so
it could be, yeah.
bummed
Elton just
out.
being like, I'm just out here promising. I'm just like making promises, which I like. I like promises. 7, I have Franz Wagner, who is Mo Wagner's younger brother. He is younger than a lot of these freshmen in the draft and has already played like high-level basketball and was great for Michigan last year. Not a primary initiator type, not the like go-to guy, but a total like fill-in-the-blanks guy. Really good at everything, smooth shot, long enough to, I think, play some... to be able to, once he fills out, to be a rim protector and run some 5-out lineups. Good defensive player, moves his feet well. Definitely more versatile than his brother is. But he's still like 6'8", 6'9". Just a smooth player, like really easy smoothness. I think there's like Mikal Bridges in there to him, I think, with a little bit more vision. Just a really, really nice player. Not gonna wow you with anything. Probably not a YouTube guy, but just really, really good and made Michigan's team like make sense a lot last year.
No notes. Don't even remember him. Sorry.
So 6, I have a guy that I've kind of gotten bullied into putting here, and there's been times where this happens year to year where I just like be like, fuck Marvin Bagley, and I ended up being right about Marvin Bagley, but then it also comes back to bite me if I don't like somebody else, and I'll just rank them too late, and it's like, well, obviously they were better than that, and so I put Jonathan Kuminga here.
Yeah.
He was Jalen Green's teammate at G League Ignite. He is just a special package in like how physically impressive he is, and physically impressive with some creation abilities. It's like a more athletic, potentially bigger, like Paul George starter kit. Can jump out of the gym, can block shots, although he's not an excellent defensive player yet. The potential is there. The shot doesn't look bad to me. Like, I watched the shot and I'm like, that looks fine. It should go in more. I think it should start going in more. And supposedly he's a kid who works really hard. And so I think he'll end up being like, just he's too athletic and moves too well to not be somewhat good. But if the shot never comes along for whatever reason, it does look, the form looks fine to me. But if it doesn't come along, then he could for sure just like suck or be Justice Winslow or something. Although I think he's more athletic and bigger. Did you watch Kuminga? Feels like a guy you would like.
So I have process draft pick. Can't really do anything. Reminds me of Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, I mean, he's just bigger. Well, he's wider than Jeremy Grant, and
just
I think,
doesn't really have a skill that seems to be like stand
no, for sure.
out.
And that's why I have him a little bit lower than most people. I think there's what is his elite skill, and it might just be like he's built like a guy who can play in the NBA. Like that might be it. The low end is like he's more athletic than Shemi Ojeleye, but like I can't see him being like worse than that. So obviously as a top 8 pick or whatever, you want something better than that. But I think the upside is really exciting because he does have some creation abilities, and you start to see like, well, if he eliminates some of those bad shots and just works on it, maybe he could end up being the best player in the draft if he takes a leap, but it'd be a big leap.
Honestly, it feels like an Orlando Magic draft pick, and he never gets good. That would be my
certainly possible. 5, I have a guy who I just love, and I have him higher than I think anybody else has. I have Moses Moody, who is a one and done from Arkansas. Was on the same Montverde team as Cade and a couple other guys, Day'Ron Sharp as well. And I think Scotty Barnes was on that team. Moses Moody is this like immediate 3-and-D guy, but also gets fouled and gets to the line a lot. And I watched a ton of his games at Arkansas. Really fun guy to root for. Has a smoothness to his game. Really easy shot. He's big. He's got a long wingspan. He's going to defend hard. He's going to take charges. He's going to move the ball. He's not just like a ball-stopping number one option. I watched him a lot because I was excited to see. First of all, cool ass name, Moses Moody. Yeah. And I was going to like, what is his like? Let's see him be the guy. But unlike a lot of these guys in college, he really like let the game come to him, and I think was an immediate. He was the number one option, but as a role player a little bit, and so I think he has he has creation abilities. He's not crazy athletic, but he just like kind of gets to his spots. I think there's some Chris Middleton to his game, with like I think a little bit more immediate, obviously, improvements, and he's young, and so I like him a lot. I think he's just going to be a really good player.
Nothing. Yeah,
Nothing.
I don't know. Yeah.
All right, and then 4, I have Jalen Suggs. I think he's good. We talked about him. I think he's going to be very good, but I struggle to see him as a number one offensive option. I think he's going to play on good teams his whole career. If he goes to Toronto, it's just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mobley at 3, I think he's excellent. It's a really good draft class. It's just a really good draft class. And 2, I have Jalen Green. I think he is. I think he's really good. I think he has the combination of athleticism and skill with the ball in his hands, and being a developing passer, and having to hitting a ton of tough shots, and performing against a lot of grown men and with grown men in the G League. It's a ballsy thing to come out there and prove it like he did. I think he's a guy that maybe a couple years ago I would have been like, nah, whatever. Like maybe he doesn't work as hard defensively, or like he's not going to get those shots in the NBA kind of thing. But he's super young. He's athletic as hell. I think there's a lot more number one option to him than there was to Anthony Edwards. He's a straight up real deal 2 guard. So in the Zach LaVine, Brad Beal type of mold. I thought about for a second ranking him over Cade, and then decided against it. But I think he's awesome. I think he's gonna be really good.
Wanted to like him. Have not that impressive actually. Too skinny. Handle is sloppy. Shot looks janky. No thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really not a crazy consistent shot, but I think his showing the ability to make it and be as athletic as he is, with like finishing inside and having like the agility to get around guys and finish in like weird scoops and stuff. I think there's a special player in there. I think he's gonna be good. And I have Cade at 1, who's just it's a little obvious, but sometimes you go with the obvious thing because the Cade's defense, I think, is what put me over the top. That he's going to defend right away. And for a guy as big as he is, that sees the court as well as he is, that will defend right away, that can shoot. He's a special kid. It's a good draft. It's a really exciting draft. All right, so let me bring up a couple players that the Sixers could take at 28.
Okay.
And you tell me if you watch them.
Okay.
Let's start with. He's probably not gonna. Did you watch Trey Murphy?
I don't know. I only have notes on like a few more guys, and he's not one of them.
Trey Murphy, I have at 11. Actually, he's pretty high. He's a super athletic 3-and-D guy. Mikal Bridges, like down the middle, like kind of more Cam Johnson-y actually than Mikal. But really athletic. Went to Virginia. Any guy that like decides to go to Virginia, I think has like, and any guy as athletic as he is that decides to go to Virginia, I'm like, good head on your shoulders. Like you have to really love basketball to go play for Tony Bennett over there. I think he's just going to be really solid. And he threw down some like crazy athletic dunks at Virginia. I think he'll probably go in like the late teens, early 20s. But if the Sixers love a guy, they could step up for him. What about? Did you watch? Here's a guy that people talk about a lot. Did you watch much Bones Highland tape at VCU?
No, I feel like I should have remembered it if I did. What a name! Is his
cool.
real name Bones?
No, his name is Nishan, but he goes by Bones because he was skinny as a kid.
Okay.
He's the man. He had a very, very interesting and heartbreaking story. I think he came up through some foster care situations, and just like worked his ass off. And he's 6'3" with like a 6'10", 6'11" wingspan. I think there's some Emmanuel Quickley to his game. He's skinny for sure, and he's a put on weight, but he's a legit shooter. Can hit from everywhere all over the court. I really like him a lot. He's a guy that a lot of people have pegged to the Sixers at 28. Went to VCU, and which is also a bummer because VCU was the only team that got kicked out of the tournament had to forfeit because of COVID last year. And actually forfeited to Chris Duarte's Oregon team, so they got to advance without having to play a game. Jared Butler. Did you watch any Jared Butler?
Probably not on my list.
Okay, so Jared Butler was the other guy, was the team leader on Baylor's championship team. Very Malcolm Brogdon-y for a couple reasons. One, that he's very like controlled and an excellent shooter, but maybe not quite big enough, or maybe not crazy dynamic enough. He's a little faster, but a little smaller than Brogdon. But also, the reason Brogdon fell is because he had these degenerative knee conditions that people kept talking about behind the scenes. Jared Butler has this heart condition that he was ruled unable to play for a little bit, and then they cleared him. It's a similar thing that happened to Chris Bosh. And so, especially with COVID, there's just concerns about, like, will he be able to play? Is there, like, a ticking clock on him? But hopefully they caught it early enough, because he's a really special kid and, like, a very, like, impressive kid to just, like, listen to. I think they call him, like, they called him the president or something. Like, it's really similar to Brogdon in those kinds of ways. And he's an excellent shooter. He'll get bullied a little bit on defense because of his size, but he's smart, plays hard. Really was the guiding force of that team, and is a really special dude. Let's see. Did you watch any Trey Mann?
Nothing. The two players I have notes on are
you do yours.
Just Sharif Cooper and Joel Ayayi.
So weird, the guys that you watch. It's always so bizarre. Ayayi is going to be like a mid-second round pick. He's going to be like nothing.
I like him. Well,
he's fine. He's a role player in college who never really got better at anything. He might make it as just like a two-way guy and be good enough, but there's not a ton of excitement there.
Some of my surprises have made it. Sharif is sick handle, great passer.
Yeah.
Love him. Yeah.
Sharif is ridiculous. He's a point guard. Went to Auburn, was not playing the first half of the season, and Auburn just looked like shit. And then I think he became eligible, and immediately, like, that team started popping. He is one of the best passers in the draft. Incredible, can get to the paint whenever he wants. The question is, he just can't. He like, more than can't shoot, he just, like, doesn't shoot. And he's just so impressive doing everything else, but he doesn't really play defense either. And so I've been burned by small guards too many times.
Yeah.
For me to be, like, all in on him, but visually love him. Very fun to root for. Very fun to watch. Makes incredible passes, and, like, is just so quick. That guy and smart. That guy just cannot stop him from getting wherever he wants to on the court. But he might just be too small to play NBA basketball. I'll just run through a couple other guys that I like for the Sixers. Cam Thomas is a guy who went to LSU. Total sixth man vibes. You've never seen him pass. Doesn't really think about defense very much, but, like, looks good, doing his thing, can break guys down off the dribble, good shooter, powerful player, even though he's not crazy athletic, but I think he'll just, the very Jordan Clarkson mold, and a guy that would be helpful here for sure if he ends up going here. Trey Mann went to Florida. He's Terrence Mann's younger brother. Keeps growing, so he's like 6'4"-ish. Not that long, not that athletic, but a great shooter. And would be a nice, in a world where it's Simmons still, would be a nice point guard off of a Simmons team. Who else should we talk about? So the other guys I'm thinking about is the, like, what I said before of, like, drafting a project. I think the Sixers don't have the, like, they have a deep bench of young guys that are exciting, right? So Maxey's exciting. Obviously, I think he's going to be the starter next year. Isaiah Joe is exciting as a role player that could pop a little bit. Rajon Tucker is a project that they might see something in. B-Ball Paul, obviously. But they don't have and Matisse is obviously already in the rotation, but they don't have the, like, big, like, they should be looking for their Michael Porter Jr. Like, find me the guy that, like, falls in the draft that, like, we don't really need to play right now, but, like, if he gets there, then that would be special. And the Sixers are in the position where they can do that. And so I think that there's guys in the draft that are of that mold. I think Maxey was a little bit like that last year, just a guy that dropped because of whatever concerns, and the Sixers were fortunate enough to be like, we don't need him that much right now. They turned out to need him, but at the time they didn't. So a guy like Zaire Williams, who went to Stanford, had a bad season at Stanford, didn't shoot well, but, like, has some, like, creation ability. Some, like, he, like, looks a little bit like Jaden McDaniels, who went to Washington, or his brother. I always mix it up. His brother Jalen went to San Diego State, but played for Charlotte, and his brother played for Minnesota. Just like like immediately good. And even though the shot for Zaire is a work in progress, he has a lot of number one option vibes to him. It just will take him some time to get there. And I think the book on him is that he's a kid who works hard and everything. So I think that Zaire is the guy that the Sixers could draft and then add to a package and go like, hey, he could be the next, Kevin Porter Jr. like kind of thing that all of a sudden becomes a more valuable piece in the trade. So I like him a lot as an undervalued guy at 28. A couple other guys, I'll just throw them out because you're falling asleep. Deuce McBride is the man, but I think he's a little too similar to Tyrese Maxey. But I think he's going to be a good player. I love point guards that defend from West Virginia, Javon Carter. And he's a better shooter than Javon is. JT Thor, which is a cool-ass name, who's a 6'8" shooter with some creation abilities also and could defend really hard at the next level. I'm excited about him. He was on the receiving end of a lot of Sharif Cooper passes. And then there's guys that I like as a potential stretch five for Joel. I don't know that I would take any of them at 28, but in the 50 range, looking at like maybe Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who went to Nova as a small ball five that could become a decent rim protector. Philip Petrushev, who went to Gonzaga and then went overseas. Isaiah Todd, who played for the G League team. Jay Huff, a little shot blocking from Virginia. Charles Bassey, who has a developing shot, but not as good as I would want it to be. And he's big as hell and he'll rebound and play. But it's a good draft. It's exciting. They better make at least one pick. Even if they trade it, if they can trade 28, it's fine. I've accepted it. But you got to give me somebody. Come on.
We end on. You should do a draft newsletter every year. With you care too much about this.
This is fun. This is what I do, and then we talk about it, and we'll talk about it for years. I should be going to summer league, but can't. But we'll have after the draft, we'll have some people on, some draft experts, depending who they get. We'll have some guys on to talk about who they end up with, and I will lament guys they didn't take.
Real quick before we go, one note: several people noted to me that the word that is used wrong all the time that I mentioned that podcasters use, and we got this on YouTube and in emails that I couldn't remember, is ostensibly. That is the word. And then I just want to end on this, just your gut reaction on this email from Scott. Toxic positivity is an obsession with positive thinking. It is the belief that people should put a positive spin on all experiences. This sums up Mike's thought process in recent years on several 76ers players, and it needs to stop. Recently, Mike shared a very thoughtful and smart breakdown on why an offense run almost entirely through Devin Booker did not work versus the Bucks in the finals. Too much dribbling, too many mid-rangers, not enough passing. In general, a style that, despite the sexy individual stats, slows down the offense and defense, thus taking his teammates out of the flow of the game. Basically, Mike said such a play style disrupts team rhythm and cohesion. He's 100% right. Problem, Mike also frequently aggressively praises Tobias Harris, despite the fact that Tobias Harris plays the exact same disruptive style.
I don't know that is...
Just let me finish.
Okay.
Then you can react. Yes, the shooting percentages increased to sexy numbers this season, but we saw in the playoffs that slow, plodding, selfish play style does not work good versus good playoff teams. It doesn't help that Harris is very low energy on both ends, especially on D. Harris dives for less loose balls than J.J. Redick. He cannot defend at the rim. He cannot defend in space. He cannot generate turnovers because he has poor vision and awareness, which also hurts him on offense. So, Mike, please stop telling me how much Harris has improved on D. He's passable only because he has 3 all-world defenders anchoring the defense. Listen, this team is not contending with low-energy Tobias Harris on the roster. On a good playoff team, Harris is nothing more than a 24-minute-per-game scoring option off the bench. On a finals team, he's 18 minutes to 24 minutes, if that. This team is paying $35+ million and starting him, Dame or no Dame, they are doomed unless they dump his low-energy ass. So I so do not care how sweet a man Tobias Harris is. He's a shitty low-energy defender, a momentum killer on offense. His slow decision-making, lack of energy, inability to create, and poor vision and awareness will always prevent this team from winning a title. Early this season, Mike brilliantly summed up Harris during an epic rant. I need that energy Mike back. Harris needs to go. Respectfully, Scott.
Scott O'Neal.
Yeah. There's no way Scott O'Neal knew that much put that much thought into an email. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like I've never been a huge Tobias guy, and especially earlier this season and the end of last season, it was very the other direction. I think he has improved defensively, and obviously on a team where Ben, Matisse, Joel are not there, then he'd be more exposed. But we don't need him to be an excellent defender. We just need him to defend his position, which I think he does, and I thought his hands got better, and I think he used his physicality on the defensive end to be fine. Although he fell asleep a couple times in the playoffs. I feel like I'm a Tobias centrist. I feel like I'm very down the middle on Tobias. I feel like I appreciate what he does well, and when he hits shots, he's very helpful. And when he passes a little bit more than he usually does, I remark on it. But yeah, as far as like not taking enough threes, slowing the momentum down, being limited in the open court, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think that Tobias is an 18. I think Tobias is a good player. He's a borderline all-star, and can score efficiently. I don't think in the there's some perfect world where he's on a championship team and they're only playing him 18 minutes a game. I think he's either a 30-minute game player on any team, or he's not in the championship. Like, I think he's too good to not play major minutes. But I could see how you could say, like, unless it's a perfect situation around him, then he's just not going to get to the championship, which I could get, yeah.
I would posit that a person that plays his position, that is as good a shooter as he is, that is as unwilling a three-point shooter as he is almost like you look at guys like any other guy that plays that position in the NBA right now as a role player just fucking lets it fly. Like, part of the reason that Danny Green is valuable is that he'll just shoot when he's fucking open. And Tobias Harris not doing that. I would rather he shoot 36.2% from three and shoot 8 of them a game than what he does. Like, I think that is the biggest problem with him.
For sure. I think that obviously we've talked about it a million times that we want to see him more. I think that if Ben is not here and there's a more creative point guard on the roster, whether it's Dame or Maxey takes a leap forward, or even Brad Beal gets to handle the ball more, it will not only help Joel, it'll help Tobias. Letting him just be a 4 and having him play with a actual backup center who can shoot will also make his game less egregious, you know? Like, they just haven't done right by all of these players by having them all be in the same spot, and crunch the lane so often. And I think that once you get a guy, obviously for Ben it would have been really helpful, but I think it'll be helpful for Tobias to just have a backup 5 who can actually shoot. So allowing him to operate out of the post, operate out of the elbow, it's not as egregious that like the ball gets swung to him by a more dynamic option and then he like hesitates, you know? I think it'll be way easier and flow better once there's just not so many of these unwilling shooters on the court at the same time.
We will be with you on Thursday night, right in the middle of the first round, when the Sixers swing a big trade for Damian Lillard.
Absolutely not.
Can't wait to do the pod with CJ.
Watching the entire draft, beginning to end, until the very last pick. It's the best. I wish there was more time to like get excited about it. I am excited about it, but I feel like it happened too quick.
All right, we'll talk to you Thursday. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, you know, like this.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
Time for Plan B.